Hakadosh Boker Or Masechet Nedarim Daf Yomi Amud Aleph 35a1 says the Gemara 8b. We're going to ask the following question: Amalo, if right now Reuven comes and he tells Shimon, Hashileni paratecha. Right? Imagine Reuven comes and he tells Shimon, listen, let me your cow. Amalo, he says, Kunam para shani kanui lecha. What does that mean? He says, I don't want it. Yeah, 35a1. 35a1. Gemara Daf Yomi Amud Aleph 35a1. We just said that they asked, what happens if I asked you to borrow the para? And all of a sudden he comes and he says, Kunam para shani kanui lecha. What does that mean? He comes and he says, I don't want to give you any. He makes a mamash, a neder. Or he comes and he says, all my properties are going to become prohibited to you. Now, in those two cases, he made a t'nai that the para or the properties are going to be prohibited. Im yeshli para, right? Elazo. What does that mean? He comes and he says, what happens if I have a para, only this one, except for this one? Or he says, the same case, but now with a hammer. And he says, Kuran kardom sheeshli. Right? Oh, it's going to be prohibited, right? Or shani kanui, and he comes and he says nechasai alecha. So yeshli kardom ela mize. What does that mean? If he does have another hammer, right? Except besides this one, which means that he comes and he says that since he doesn't have other ones, right? So he can't lend it to him because he needs it for himself. But now he comes and he makes a neder in order to make a point that he doesn't have another hammer or he doesn't have another cow. Right? He's not just saying no. Meaning, I come and I say, listen, can you lend me your car? And all of a sudden you come, you make a neder if I have another car. What does that mean? I need my car. I can't lend you a car. I need this. There's only one. I have only one. So now what happens? What happens all of a sudden? You did have another car. Or you had here, or here we're talking about the hammer or the other para, obviously. You had another one. Right? And that means it comes out that you did have you. Right? You did have it. So the halacha is bechayav asur. During his lifetime, right, it's going to be prohibited for him to benefit from it. But if he passes away and then it's given to the inheritors, or was given to him as a present later on, mutar. So therefore, it comes out that the bright is going to be permitted. So the bright comes out that it permitted somebody for benefiting from it if you received it later as a present. One more time, when he made the neder, he did not have another hammer. He did not have another para. When you basically came and you asked me to lend it, somebody else was around and he heard me making the neder. He heard me saying, listen, if you had another one, meaning that I don't have it. Now, everyone knows what? You need more than one car. So then what happened? Somebody came and they gave me a matana, they gave me a present, they gave me another car. Now I'm allowed to come and I'm allowed to give it to you. Because when I made the neder, it was correct. I made the neder if I had another one. I didn't have another one at the time of the neder. So for now that they gave it to me as a present, I'm allowed to come and I'm allowed to lend it out to you. So now this is going to be a question against who? Against Rabbi. Because Rava, right, prohibited it. Rava said that even if you come and you get it as a present, it's going to be prohibited. So Amar Ravacha bered Ravika answers the Gemara. Ravacha bered Ravika comes and he answers, Nitna lo al yedei acher. The bright is talking about that it was given to him to somebody else, right? Which means at the beginning, the Bala Para or the Bala Kardom, which means the owner of the cow or the owner of the hammer came, he gave it to somebody else, and then this one came, right, and he gave it to the mudar. In such a case, Rava says it's mutar to benefit from it. Okay, that's what he comes and he says. So therefore, since he comes and he says in that case it's going to be permitted, so there's no problem. So one more time, I came and I made the neder, but then afterwards I really realized that maybe Bemet Ronen needed it. So what do? I give it as a present to him. Right now he's going to come and he's going to lend it out to him. And then there's not going to be a problem because it's going to be permitted. Okay? So Amar Ravashi says, Dai Kanami, you could actually deduce this. Tektani, as we learned, Shenitnalo. The Loktani Shenitanahlo. What does that mean? Nitnalo is somebody else giving it to you. Nitanalo is that the Madirat Smo is the one that's giving it out, which means that the Braita did not permit for the Madir to benefit from the Chefetz only if he received it from a third party, from someone else. Just like Ravacha bered Ravika came and he said. What did he say? Rava min Rav Nachman. So asks Rava from Rav Nachman, Yesh me'ilah bekunamot or lo? Is there me'ilah in a kunam or not? Which means a person comes and he's going to benefit from a object which was prohibited to him with a kunam. Now somebody came and he actually did it. Is he going to be chayav a korban hasham if he did it by, if he, did it accidentally? Because basically it's like a korban. Remember, what was that? What was it? Neder. A neder is that I make it a sur like a korban. So now 1 second, right? No, an asur. You say that this is a sur to me or this is like a korban to me. Now, but then basically what are you trying to do? It's like a korban. So 1 second, you're not allowed to benefit from a korban. If you benefit from a korban, it's called me'ilah. What is me'ilah? You have to bring a korban me'ilah, right? Because you were ma'al, you went and you benefited. So to here, so the question is, I came and I did me'ilah ben a kunam. You came and you said, this gemara is prohibited to me. Okay, that's not yours, but let's say pretend it was yours, right? So if this is because you cannot prohibit something that's not yours, right? That means you cannot come and say that this gemara that belongs to the Knesset is not prohibited to me. But you could come and say, this is yours. Yeah, let's pretend it's yours. You come and you say, I come, right? And I make it prohibited to you. Now this is like a korban. So now this is like a korban, right? When you're going to come and I'm going to benefit, so now it's going to be a problem. Yeah, you understood?
What is it mind that it's prohibited to you?
Elmaleh, he comes and he says, Tenitua. We already learned it. What do we already learned it? Makom shenotlim alea sachar. We said if there's a place where you take reward for doing Hashavat Avedah. Remember, Hashavat Avedah means you're returning a lost object. Tipolana le'ekdesh. So we said that you give it to the ekdesh. Lemeimra ki ekdesh. Are you going to tell me then that kunamot is like ekdesh? Because the fact that we said that it's going to go to the ekdesh, and we didn't just say go to Yam HaMelach and throw it in the sea. Sometimes we have the concept that if you're not allowed to benefit from something, take the coin, throw it to the sea. You're never going to benefit from it. It's going to be washed away out of nowhere. In a sense, it's going to. So my ekdesh yesh bo milah, af kunamot yesh bo milah. Just like ekdesh, he has milah. So to kunamot they have milah. So to answer the Gemara, you're right. Ketanai, it's a machloket tanaim. Kunam kikar zo ekdesh. When a person comes and he says this is going to be a sur on the entire world, just like ekdesh is a sur on the entire world, va'achala, and then he ate it. Ben hu u ben chavero. Doesn't matter whether it was a madir or somebody else that came and he ate it. Ma'am. It's a milah. Lefichach, and therefore, yesh la pidyon. There's going to be a pidyon for this kikar, right? Which means that they could actually come and they could redeem it for money. Kikar zo alay le'egdesh. If this kikar, the person comes and he says this kikar is going to be for him, egdesh va'achala, and then he ate it, uma'al, right? V'chavero lo ma'al. So therefore, if this is going to be unto him, he didn't prohibit it on the entire world, right? Ela small, only on himself. Meaning, one more time, it's not on the entire world. It's only prohibited on himself. And then he ate it. So therefore, humal. But if it was his friend that ate it, it's no milah, because it was only on him. It wasn't on the world. The fichach, therefore, en la pidyon. There's no pidyon. Why? Because it's not so chamur that pidyon will help to get out of it. These are the words of Rabbi Meir. The Chachamim say, benkach u benkach. Doesn't matter whether it's going to be one thing or the other thing. Lo ma'al, it's not considered milah. Lefi she'en me'ilah lekunamot, because there's no me'ilah in kunamot. What does that mean? He holds that there is a dynamic. According to Rabbi Meir, there is me'ilah bekunamot. According to Chachamim, there's no me'ilah bekunamot. So it comes out, if I'm going to ask you, is there me'ilah in kunamot? Machloket Rabbi Meir and Chachamim. That's what it's coming out. Elmaleh Ravacha vered Ravavia leRavashi. Says Ravacha, the son of Ravavia, to Ravashi. Okay, now we are going to the next question, which ki'ilu we're judging that there is, right? That there is milah bekunamot. Again, we are going ki'ilu with the anacha that there is, right? Milah bekunamot, just like Rabbi Meir. Stam Mishnah is like Rabbi Meir. Okay, so now he says like this: Kikari alecha. Right? V'netana lo b'matana. Imagine a person comes and he says, my kikar is prohibited unto you. And afterwards he comes and he gives it as a present. Mima'al, is there a milah? Because since there is milah bekunamot, we can say there's also a milah, right? When a person is going to take out the chefetz, right? From the ekdesh, from one reshut to another reshut. And even if it's going to be yes or not, right? So do we say lim'ol, right? Hanoten, right? Do we say that it's actually going to be, it's going to be the milah in the one that's giving the hekdesh mamash, halo asira ale, but it was never prohibited to him. So therefore, why would it be milah? Limola mekabel, it should be the one that's receiving it. Yachol de'amar, he could say, hetera baiti, I only wanted something of permission. Isura lo baiti, I didn't want anything which was prohibited. So therefore, be'emet, maybe it's going to be, it's a zechiyah b'tauten. So therefore, he doesn't want it. Because if you're giving to me as a present, okay, fine. But if you're going to give me something which didn't become prohibited to me, I don't want that. So the Gemara says, Amalei mekabel ma'al lechshiyotzi. Right? What does that mean? The mekabel, which is the one, right? The one which is going to be here, the receiving the present, he's going to do milah, right? Matai. When it says over here, lechshiyotzi. What does that mean? When he takes it out of his possession, which means, right, when he's going to use it in any form. Now, even though when he gave it to him, there's no milah, for the reason that we already just said, he's going to have milah when he's going to take it out of his possession. So if you're going to come and take money of Hekdesh, and you're going to take it out for chulin, right, so then it's considered milah. So to here, this is considered milah. Okay, so again, we were going according to that shita, right? But obviously, Chachamim argue. So therefore, according to Chachamim, this doesn't start.
The Gemara is
right?
dealing with it because
100%.
The Gemara is like
the Mishnah says in Lamed Hamul Bet 35b, "V'torem et trumato masrotav ledato." What does that mean? The Mishnah now is going to speak about that you're allowed to do something for somebody else, even though you're prohibited to benefit from them, and it's not considered, right, an isur. So if you remember, we said that, for example, that means even though I came and said I'm not allowed to benefit from you, but I'm allowed to come and pay off, whether it's the certain taxes or the shkalim, right, or certain things. You remember, and it's not considered benefiting. So here it says, you're allowed to come, and even though, right, it has to be ledato. The reason why is because if it's not ledato, that means you didn't do anything. But for example, even though if I know about it, and now you come and you say, you know what, I want to pay off your tumot masrot, you're allowed to let him. And also, if the madir was a kohen, he's allowed to bring for him as a kohen kine zavin, kine zavot, kine yoldot, hataot, ashamot. So mamash, that means you as a kohen, even though you're mudarana, you're allowed to bring, whether it's a kenav for the zav, zava, yoldot. These are all people that they have to bring a korban of a zav. Remember, the zav or zava or the yoledet, they bring a ken. What's a ken? It's basically two birds. One bird for an olah, one bird for a chatat, right? They come and they bring birds. So that's called a ken. So it's kine zavin for a zav, which is for the male. Zavot for the female. Yoldot, one that's giving birth. The chatat shamot, and also chatat and sham. Umlamdo. You're allowed to actually teach him midrash, halachot, va'agadot. You're allowed to teach him midrashim. You know, like for example, sifra, sifri, right? Halachot, you're allowed to teach him halachot, which is Torah Shebal Peh. Agadot, also you're allowed to teach him agadot. Aval lo yelamedenu, but you're not going to come and teach him mikra Torah. You're not allowed to teach him Torah. Aval melamedhu et banav ve'et benotav mikra. But you're allowed to teach his sons and daughters mikra. Okay, so now we're going to find out exactly why. We're like, why certain things you're allowed to teach, certain things you're not allowed to teach, what's going on exactly. So all these things we're going to have to understand. So it says the Gemara, Ibai lehu. So we ask the following question. Hane kahane. These kohanim that they're bringing the korbanot, shluchei didan havu or shluchei di shamaya? Are they the shliach? Are they our shaliach? Or are they shaliach of HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Right, that's the question. So ask the Gemara, my nafkamina. What do I care who they're the shliach of? Whether it's the shliach of the HaKadosh Baruch Hu or our shliach. So he says the nafkamina is going to be the mudarana. Why? You're going to tell me now that they're my shaliach. So hamahanile. So I'm benefiting. If I had to bring a korban, doesn't matter which type of a korban, and now I have this kohen that he made a neder, not a, and all of a sudden now the kohen is bringing it for me. It's a benefit if he's my shaliach, obviously. The asur, and then it should be asur. But if you're going to tell me now that he's the shaliach of Hashem, so then 1 second, it should be permitted, right? So what's halacha? Mai. So Tashema, we're going to bring a proof. The Tanam we learned in the Mishnah, makriv alav kinez zavim, right? You're allowed to bring kinez zavim, right? That's what we just said. The kohen and the madid, right? Which means the kohen could come and he's allowed to bring all these types of sacrifices. If you're going to tell me now that it's a shliach of our type of shliach, kamahanile. So therefore, it's actually going to help him, right? So therefore, he's benefiting. So ask the Gemara, what are you talking about? Flip it on the other side. What's the other side? Litni makriv alav korbanot. Why didn't you just say he's allowed to bring korbanot? Why do we speak about korbanot, right? Which basically are talking about mechusere kapara. They lack kapara, right? All these types of korbanot, if you didn't bring them, you still don't have an atonement. Meaning, if a person's a zava and he didn't bring the sacrifice, right? No, Pesach is completely different. Right? These ones, he's lacking an atonement. Pesach is not an atonement, right? But this is atonement. What does that mean? If you have a zava, she didn't bring the sacrifice, she doesn't have an atonement. If you have a yoledet, right? She doesn't bring her sacrifice, she's lacking atonement. Ela mechusare kapara shane. He says people that lack the mechusare kapara is different. The Amar Rabbi Yochanan says Rabbi Yochanan, hakol tzrichim da'at. Everybody needs, right, midat baalim, which means somebody else cannot bring a korban for you if it wasn't al da'at the baalim. Chutz mechusare kapara, except for mechusare kapara, that they don't need da'at. They don't need it, right? What does that mean? That means basically, Sharei Adam mevi korban al banav v'benotav ketanim. What's the proof? You could bring a korban for your children. What do? We do it all the time when we do kaparot, wife, no? Right? Yeah. What do you do for kaparot? What do you do for kaparot? You come and you give it to your children. One second, your children have that. They don't have that. They're too small. You could have a 2-year-old. You're coming. You're bringing. You're coming and you're bringing. Right? No, they're not chayav, but you could do it. So therefore, you see from here that you could bring something with chusare kapara. You could bring something which is a kapara, even though the person doesn't know about it. Why is he bringing right? Shneimar says in a pasuk, "V'zot Torah tazav ben gadol ben katan." This is the Torah of the zav, whether it's going to be a gadol or a katan. He's obligated to bring this korbanot. Now, a katan does not have that to come and to bring to maybe a korban, but rather the father is bringing a korban for him. So the father is bringing the korban from him. You see that it could be right even without his da'at. So therefore, you see from here, also anybody else could also do it without that. So therefore, we actually could say the exact opposite. All the korbanot, you need dat baalim. So therefore, the kohen has to bring it b'shlichut baalim. Here, since you don't need dat baalim, the kohen does not have to bring it in your shlichut. And therefore, if the kohen does not have to bring it in your shlichut, that's why the kohen is allowed to bring it. Not because of, meaning like this, one more time. Really, be'emet, you could tell me that really, be'emet, the kohen is our shaliach, not the shaliach of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I think it's so. One second. So if right now you're going to tell me that it's going to be our shaliach and not the shaliach of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so one second, if he's mudarana, how are you going to have benefit? So the Gemara answers it's a special deen in all the cases that we brought down. All the cases that we brought down were all to do with kaparot, atonements, chatat, a sin offering, and asham, a sin atonement, kapara, right? Atonement, right? Chatat, a sin offering, and asham, a guilt offering, right? We're talking about the kinim, all these types of kinim, whether it's for zav, zava, yoledet, right? All these things. So in all these cases, a kohen could do it even though he's prohibited for benefiting from me. Why? Like to give me benefit. Why? Because anyway, he doesn't need me, right? He doesn't need me. Why doesn't he need me? Because he could bring it even if I don't know about it. Even without me and my knowledge, he could bring it. Just like a person could bring it for his own children, he could also bring it for another person as well. Okay? So now we're going to ask the following question. The Rabbi Yochanan, according to Rabbi Yochanan, Zot Torata Yoledet, when it says Torat, right? But remember, here we're using the Lashon of Torah, which is a chiyuv of a korban, which is said, right? Whether it's going to be the katan with the gadol. So it says Zot Torata Yoledet, ben ketana, ben gadola. One second, when it says whether it's Zot Torata Yoledet, this is the Torah of everybody that's Yoledet. Doesn't matter whether it's just ketana or agdola. But one second, ketana bat ledahi. Can a ketana come and give birth? Vatani Rav Bevai, kamed Rav Nachman. Taught Rav Bevai in front of Rav Nachman. Shalosh nashim yisham shobamoch. 3 women are allowed to use contraceptives. Ketana meuberet menikah. A ketana, a minor. A meuberet, a woman that she's already pregnant. And a menikah. Ketana, why is a ketana allowed to use this moch? Shema titaber v'tamut, because basically she's going to become pregnant and maybe she's going to die. So because of the danger that she could actually become pregnant and die, we actually come and we give a permission that she's allowed to be mishtamesh moch. So when you come and you tell me Zot Torata Yoledet, and the Torat comes to include whether it's a minor or above bar mitzvah, what's going on? So answers the Gemara, Hahi Zot Torata Yoledet. No, the word Torah does not talk about a minor or above bar mitzvah. Ben al pichit ben al shota. Doesn't matter whether she's a regular woman or she's a shota. Sheken adam mevi korban lishto shota. Because just like a person could bring mechusar kapara on somebody else, they could also bring on their wife if she's a shota. Kedivrei Rabbi Yehuda, just like Rabbi Yehuda. The Torah was learned and right. Rabbi Yehuda says, "Adam mevi korban ashir alishto." A person, a woman that she's obligated a korban olev yored, right? Which means that it all depends whether their status, right? We say this a lot of times, right? The concept of olev yored. What is olev yored? Depends where they are on the financial market. Depends what type of a korban do they have to bring. If they're mamash poor, they'll bring a flower offering. If they're a little bit more, it's the birds. If it's a little, right, then they bring a fatty animal. Okay, so it all depends. So a person will come and bring for his wife a korban ashir lishto, vechol korbanot shechayevet, or any other obligation, right? So the husband will bring it. Shekach kotev la ve'acharayut de'itla chalai min kadma dinan, because he actually writes it that any type of acharayut is going to be on them. So therefore, since we see that a husband brings a korban for his wife, so therefore you could say when it says torat, it's talking about, for example, a shota. We're not talking about now a ktana or whatever it is that they don't need that. Okay. So therefore, when the Tana of Mishnah says a kohen he's allowed to bring a korban, he's not doing it shlichuta. Okay. And then the Gemara is going to continue, obviously, with all the rest of the questions. Okay.